Good morning, everybody. Happy fall, November 4th, 2025. We're here at the Little Calumet River Basin Commission show. We are graced by the chairman here this morning because our executive director is on assignment.
Bill Baker.
Whatever assignment that is. Mr.
Isn't he exciting about trying to talk about a river? That's outstanding.
Take me to the river. Take me to the water.
Big fan.
And Bill can expound on this after the 2009 flood when they reconstituted the Little Cal River Basin Commission and
Actually,
eliminated.
I'm going to steal your microphone because it's not working, so let me get it.
She says your microphone's not working, so she's going to come swap it out. But following the 2008 flood, then Governor Mitch Daniels came in and basically said, what's going on here? We got to fix this. So basically they started with a new commission, and Mr. Baker was on that commission along with Senator Durnell and myself and a few others, cast thousands, but the remaining individuals are Mr. Baker and myself from one of the original constituted commissions. And the whole idea was...
Is the microphone working?
I can hear you now.
All right.
The whole idea was to basically get the project that had been languishing for years done.
Right.
And Mr. Baker can probably... He was there at the flood of 2008. That.
And I have to bring it up, and I don't like it, under the premise that it took trauma for something as fundamental as taking care of the infrastructure to happen in the region to get an ongoing perpetual, a perpetual funding source to be able to take care of something that nobody really wants to pay attention about. It isn't really exciting until it fails. And unfortunately, it failed in September of 2008, and we had a flood, and the Borman Expressway at 200,000 vehicles per day was closed for 4 straight days, to the point where there was $1 billion of damage, and it brought in the congressman, it brought in the governor, and obviously it was very traumatic for a lot of families. And fortunate or unfortunate, depending on how you look at it, I was asked by then Governor Daniels to be a part of the group to come in after the board of 28 or whatnot was
Cast of thousands.
was sent on their way and work through the process of trying to not only take care of what happened after September 2008, but also take care of this into perpetuity to the point where, at least during our time, that we don't have to see something like that again. And, Tom will speak to the point that I mentioned at the meetings, is that this is basically a project, I can hear you, Adriana.
You can hear?
Yeah. So that it ends up being a situation that you're dealing with Mother Nature. And when you deal with Mother Nature, you're not gonna have very good luck from the standpoint of trying to control her. But we're gonna do the best we can if we get 10 gallons of water for our 5-gallon bucket.
Yeah, what's interesting, Bill, is when we came onto the commission, you're looking at this thing, and it was constituted in the 80s. And they said, this project's going to take about 5 years. And both Bill and myself come from the construction background. And time is money to get things done. And it just doesn't seem like that when you come into the public sector. There's just seemed like no sense of urgency to get anything done here.
Yeah, and everybody on this particular commission, and it's unique in the state of Indiana because it's primarily people from the private sector who sit on this. One of the things in the state statute that was done after the flood was that only folks that are not employed by a branch of the government can be sitting on this particular board, and they have to have certain requirements that have verifiable cause that they're involved in construction and real estate and law and finance and engineering, hydrology, and things that are important to something as fundamental as taking care of your stormwater. Not real sexy stuff, but if you don't do it and you don't take care of it in a proactive manner, there's going to be some challenges.
And then we sat meeting after meeting, and you're like, okay, we just built this behemoth over $250 million, and wait a minute, we bought a car and we don't have money to maintain the car? We can't do anything to fix the problems? Because over years, people know you got to change the tires, you got to change the oil, you got to change the,
maintenance,
just general maintenance. There was no mechanism, folks, to maintain the system.
And this is just another example. I mean, it's just my opinion, but I mean, government's really good at building stuff, not so good at taking care of it once it's built. Because once the shine of the newness wears off, you still have to go through and like you said, do those fundamental things to be able to make sure it operates in the intent to which it was designed.
I think the beauty part of it now is we've got individuals, executive director that's focused on, okay, what's the general maintenance that needs to happen every year, cleaning out culverts, making sure that the river's flowing freely. We have monitoring systems throughout this whole system, not only in the river, but upstream and downstream of the river to tell us when, in a big event, when we're going to see water come rushing our way.
Right. And you know, after the trauma of the flood, then it was immediately the responsibility was to, take care of the things that were damaged after the flood, finish the project, and have a perpetual funding source so we limited the opportunity for that to ever happen again. And now it encompasses the entire watershed. So it's not just the river in and of itself that runs parallel with the Borman Expressway, but it's all of the feeders and the tributaries that feed into that particular ditch, which ends up going out to the lake. So this encompasses the entire community, at least in Lake County. Heck, it has impact in Illinois. It has impact in Porter County. And we laugh that water knows no geopolitical boundaries. But do you think it would work well if we spent Indiana money on fixing things in Illinois? I think that would cause a lot of problems. But it's still a scenario that we have to work through the process to be able to make sure that from an engineering perspective, from a maintenance perspective, that we meet those requirements as we continue to grow the community and economic development happens and all the entities that are responsible for bringing in new development occur, that we take into consideration some of the infrastructure concerns ahead of time, as opposed to go, oh no, let's build a lot of stuff on Indianapolis Boulevard, and I can't believe there's more traffic now.
That's the beauty part, folks, that when we sit down in meetings and we sit down amongst ourselves and talk about the development that's happening south of 30, basically we're paving over land that accepted the water, and we got to be maintaining our systems to understand how's that going to impact the little Calumet River, even though it could be 10 or 15 miles away.
Right.
And we constantly are updating our master plan. We're in the process of getting that done. That's going to be done here shortly.
Can't say that anymore. It's comprehensive.
Okay, comprehensive. The good news for that is we've gone to each individual community, as we did when we first started this mission, and asked them, okay, what's the hit list? What needs to be happening now?
Right.
In addition to that, we, as the commission, have our own hit list of things that need to happen to finish up everything that needs to be done to make sure everything's flowing.
And the common denominator is that we're all in this together from the perspective of the Little Cal Commission working with each of the communities within the watershed to be on the same page just to take care of something as fundamental as the infrastructure of stormwater management. So that being said, it didn't want to be another entity in Lake County handing out contracts. It wanted to be something that was being involved, that had some involvement with each community in the watershed to engage those communities to work in their geopolitical area, if you will, and make sure that those activities didn't impact negatively anybody surrounding it. So it's a system. So it's common sense, at least from our perspective, but it's not always easy to work through from a political perspective.
I think I'd be comfortable in saying that all the partners that we work with throughout the watershed are partners in each one of the individual communities, whether it be Maryville or Crown Point. They can honestly say, hey, those guys are making sure that we're dotting every I and crossing every T to make sure whatever funds that we're funneling back to the communities to take care of these issues are going to make an impact on the whole and not just that individual project.
Right. And we focused a lot, obviously, first and foremost on the river in and of itself and making sure everything was addressed towards the design by the Army Corps of Engineers, but also updated with the new technology, with the things that have been available and that have changed, because the only thing that stays the same in life is change. So make sure those things are incorporated as well, but also focus on the primary tributaries that feed into the river, and that's Hart Ditch on the west side of the county, and it's Deep River on the east side of the county, and make sure those are functioning in the proper way. Hold as much water, because there is some natural things, believe it or not, that are really cool that are associated with these tributaries in the river that we're also trying to enhance as a part of our charge with the recreational component. So I think as time goes on and we start moving into different phases, some of that is going to be more to the forefront, because we wanted to take care of all of the, call it the triage that we needed to do after the flood, and take care of the things throughout the watershed to get it kind of stabilized, and now move on to the next phase, which is what are we going to do moving forward, and how are we going to make sure that we could also enhance the river system to be able to be a benefit and a positive to the community, and not just looked at as another ditch to move water away from my house.
And that's as we go forward and through this the process, we're constantly looking at opportunities to work with communities on the recreational side of the equation, whether it be paving over trails on top of our levee system, bridges over major thoroughfares to make sure that the bikers and the walkers and the ladies with the strollers can get through, to basically navigate the system, and see the nature that's out there along the system, because people don't understand. You get a little bit further east of like Klein Avenue towards Lake Etta, and you feel like you're basically in a forest, and you're in a whole different world out there. There's deer and eagles and all kinds of different.
See, I didn't see any of that stuff until I went to the zoo.
Yeah, this is correct. I never knew we had that kind of stuff going on. And then one of the things we did a few years ago was the over where the dam was in Lake Station, and created this I call it a step down system, where it's not a dam anymore. It's just basically a ladder that goes down, and the guys are out there fishing every day, and we've basically created a whole new like park area for people that enjoy that.
Well, and then the park area and that is in Bellevue, and it ties into that, and trying to make it a little bit more cohesive, because let's face it, if you grew up in the region, you understand it's very parochial, and this was an unfortunate event that I think at least has the positive of having one entity that tries to bring everybody together for the greater good. Now, granted, it's stormwater. You don't have to deal with a lot of people as it relates to that unless there is an issue. But from the most part, it's at least a foundation to show that you can work together regardless of the way you look at things, to make sure that the community as a whole is taken care of. And, if that goes to our roadways and that can kind of feed into some other aspects, I think that would be a benefit for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, one of the gratifying things was that when we finished the bridge that basically opened up Deep River from the dam,
the railroad
bridge going south, or going north towards the river. After that, we came through and constituted a program to basically remove all the leaning trees and the stuff that was falling into the Deep River, and people along Deep River came up to Dan or the guys that were working out there and says, "No one's ever done this in like 30, 40 years." There you go, people. I mean, it's just deferred maintenance that wasn't taken care of, and when a tree falls in the river and starts floating down and then starts blocking the tributary, you're going to have problems down the line.
And understanding the environmental aspect of it and nature and all the things like that. I mean, Mother Nature puts trees down for other, creatures to be able to have a place for shelter and whatnot. But the big picture is we still have to manage this thing as a storm water control system. And that's first and foremost, because as much as we want to try to, deal with some of the things and the trees and whatnot that's going down, those are the primary challenges when we do have a rain event. So think over 2 inches at any one time. And we had that storm this summer that, went north, but if that 9 inches of rain fell on the Borman Expressway, we've got that into the hydrology model that we're working on to see what would happen. How would that impact all of the aspects of the system as a whole, to make sure we at least have a game plan on how to work through all those types of things. But one of the first things that we want to do, and we've been working on since we've had that opportunity with the funding perspective, is to try to eliminate as many places along the system where it requires man intervention for doing sandbags and closing roads and throwing those types of structures up to prevent flooding in the areas. So the more bridges that we could lift, the more opportunities that we can work through the entire watershed to be able to eliminate having to go in the middle of a 9-inch rainstorm when we might have issues everywhere else, to have all the resources go into some of the primary places. But real easy to say, not so easy to do, just like anything else in life.
Well, we've got a lot of things that we constantly focus on. One of the things you talked a little bit about the new technologies that are there, the monitoring systems that we have along the tributaries and throughout the system. And then now over the last few years, we're doing, especially this time of year when the leaves start falling and everything starts getting cleared out, flying drones through segments of the river to identify blockages, because our fine furry friends, this is their busy season. When they say busy as a beaver, they're not lying about that, because over the last few weeks we found a lot of beaver dam action that basically clogs up the river and doesn't keep things flowing. And if we have a rain event, we don't want stuff backing up. We don't want stuff backing up into people's houses and their basements and yards or any of that stuff along the tributaries.
Well, and that's one of the reasons that I'm proud of the aspect of the entire community working together, because each of the individual communities, is a part of the advisory group that comes together, and they're also point out to the office any challenges that they see, to the point where whether it's a beaver dam, whether it's blockage from trees, whether it's some kind of construction thing that might be impacting the levees, because every year, now every other year, we get inspected for the entire system, primarily along the river, but the Corps comes in to make sure that everything meets the specifications. That paperwork then goes to FEMA, which is another governmental entity, but the FEMA group has to check off on it as well to make sure that those folks that are close to the river don't have to pay mandatory flood insurance as a part of their mortgage. So by making sure that paperwork is correct, we're able to have that as an option, which we obviously, if you live close to the river, you should have flood insurance regardless of what happens, because again, it is dealing with Mother Nature, but for the most part, it's not a requirement as a part of your mortgage, and therefore that dollar actually can be put elsewhere into the community. And just to try to be positive, look at it as an economic perspective, that's dollars, instead of going into paying for mandatory flood insurance, is going into the community to buy goods and services.
Yeah, and additionally, to build on that, you're taking land that theoretically you couldn't build on. You could, but then you're going to be paying an ungodly sum of flood insurance to occupy that land. If you open up that land without having to pay the flood insurance, that opens up additional properties for development along the system. And I'm not saying we're pro or anti-development. We look at each project individually, but there's some opportunities in the Gary system. Once that Lomar is done over that way, that would open up land that's privately owned that can't, in the past, couldn't be developed. Now it's possibly could be developed.
Right. And a letter of map revision is a Lomar, and that's something to modify the governmental process to check all the boxes to be able to do some types of development. An example would have been what happened at Woodmark Country Club when they did the Cabela's development. That required a Lomar that had to be done, and that's why you see along the back end of that development on the west end that levee type of a system where the bike trail is, to do those types of things. And you have that opportunity in Gary as well, and it takes a little bit of time, because one of the challenges that I've had coming from the private sector into the public sector is just that it takes so long to get things done. And
nobody's in a hurry.
And it's unfortunate, because back to the previous statement of the only thing that stays the same is change, is that change is going to continue to evolve. However, path it takes, it's going to take a path, and you have to be able to work through it to be able to have an opportunity to be beneficial and at least take care of an infrastructure component to be able to do new things and bring, for Tom's example and Gary of economic development, and then that's fine. I mean, I was not a big fan of starting down the path of getting involved in development, even though that's part of my background as well, because we had so much work to do to make sure the triage of taking care of the trauma from 2008 wasn't completed yet. We have to fix the things to make sure the system does everything before we start worrying about what's going on land that's controlled by the Little Cal. We ventured off down a path some time ago with what was called a recycling plant. At the time was Maya, and it was something that was discussed extensively, but it was off the system itself. It was land control back in the day before the flood, and why they acquired it, it's history. But fine. That's something that we would be involved with, but we're not going to build it. We're not going to monitor it. We're not going to do this. That's going to be the local responsibility as far as getting all the permitting and all the things required like that. Yep. And it evolved into a time-consuming thing because of the developer went in a different direction than what was originally proposed. Long story short, that deal is no longer and has been terminated, and it's growing green space now.
And that's fine. The way it was structured, folks, it was
pretty good.
Here it is, and you have the responsibility to get the proper permits through the proper individuals and entities, and unless you did that, then it wasn't going to happen.
Right. And at the time, there was an argument to say that, why would we want to stop an opportunity for the developer to put up a business that was going to bring jobs and commerce to that particular location. But we didn't want to be the ones responsible for that entire thing. That obviously would go through the normal channels. So,
right.
We tried and it didn't work. But for the most part, we're moving along. It's not to say that that's not going to be a situation that we wouldn't look at in the future. But it's going to be a discussion. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, not even call it the interesting thing is, over the 6 or 7 years while this thing was occurring, those individuals paid us a sum of money, and we ended up able to generate enough money to build a park.
Right, and
it didn't cost the taxpayers one penny.
And that's cool from the standpoint, at least as you and I are both paying into this thing, is that the majority of the dollars, if not all of the dollars that we pay, go into taking care of the actual system and not the administration and whatnot. We had that particular deal, and it was generating maybe $100,000 a year to the point where we got $400,000 or $500,000 from that to help improve some of the things that are around that area. Mm-hmm. But also we have billboards along land controlled by the Little Cal that sit along the expressway. So overall, those types of things take care of the administrative aspect of what we do, so that the dollars that the property owners pay into the system are used for what it's supposed to, in my opinion, which is to make sure what happened in September 2008 never happens again.
Along with our crack staff of 2 individuals that do a fine job running this commission, the executive director, Mr. Repay, and his
office manager, Jody Lambert.
I mean, they do a phenomenal job, and they get everything done. And then, fortunately for us, we have a lot of good partners along the river system that help us immensely in maintaining and being our eyes and ears out there. We always tell our people listening and our people that come to the meetings, and we appreciate that. If you see something, say something. 219-595-0599 is the office number. Or you can go on littlecalriverbasincommission.org, and all the email addresses are there. You can drop Dan or Jody or one of us an email, and we send it up the ladder to make sure it's addressed.
And as we're wrapping this up, I mean, the website was something that we focused on a long time ago to put all of the history in there. Before all the things changed and all the rules changed from the standpoint of public meetings, we put all of our meetings up there. We put on video. Mm-hmm. We put all of the documentation up there. It's to the point where it's ours, not mine. So That's been going on for, hell, before the COVID, to the point where we're trying to be able to show that there's things to go out there. How many people look at it, man? Not very many, but nobody's going to pay attention to the little Cal unless there's a challenge. And it's an unfortunate reality, at least from my perspective, but good. You know, I mean, it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, because we all have enough stuff to worry about without having to worry about something like what happened in 2008.
And the history's all there. So, you know, you learn from history, and people can look at certain things and say, hey, maybe we should do it this way, maybe we should do it that way. And the nice thing about the commission, that's the way it's set up now, is we've got a lot of individuals with varied opinions on things, and we talk over and talk through many of the issues that are presented to us in a very logical fashion.
in our perspective. But I mean, you know, that's why we're able to have just 2 employees, because we have a board that's engaged in how to work through these types of things. And everybody that has a certain expertise is involved in helping Dan and Jody to make sure that they have a structure to operate in to be able to achieve the goal in a efficient and effective manner. And, you know, it seems logical, I think, for most folks that are of that opinion, but it's a little challenging sometimes when you're dealing with government bureaucracies and trying to accomplish things in a timely manner, because you know, things change in Mother Nature significantly. We have a couple of big storms. Freeze thaws are coming up next. That's going to be the next big one as it relates to going through a winter, which, by the way, happens every year. So get ready. It's coming.
Sometimes it happens a little later or earlier than others.
I don't know. It's 60 degrees today in November.
It's a beautiful day today,
let's go play golf.
Hopefully that continues on through the middle of December, I hope. But, yeah, the nice thing about it is both Bill and myself and the other commissioners have a varied background in a lot of different things in engineering and construction. And we can be sounding boards for Dan and Jody. Hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Or even people that come to us with a lot of projects and say, well, that sounds great, but that really doesn't affect the whole here.
Right. Well, and we try to engage everybody to the point where everybody has a little bit of skin in the game. So yes, we all pay into it, and I get that perspective, but also to be able to have a little bit of dollars coming out of those municipalities for projects that they see as important, because by them having a little skin in the game, by them having the employees to be able to execute as far as the maintenance of those things, it's important and engages all of us to make sure that we look at this as a system and not just we have to worry about what happens in our geopolitical boundaries.
Yeah. What do you say? Water has no boundary?
Water has no geopolitical. I don't have to go to Purdue to know that it flows downhill either. So
yes,
it's a real thing. So as we continue to evolve, we're going to focus a lot on what happens along the expressway, because it's a major thoroughfare for the state of Indiana and all of us locally. Even though it's going under construction again this year, which is every year, right? But also at I-65 in the Borman, that's a major thoroughfare. But one of the challenges that I always see is, like, we have $300 million of engineered water heading east. What happens when it crosses the county line? So it has to cross the county line to get to the lake.
Through
the
onion ditch.
Yeah, the onion ditch. It's still like it was when this is a swamp, when the farmers cut those ditches to be able to drain it to farms. So these are things that are ongoing. That's why it's a perpetual thing, because as we become more and more successful with our economic development goals and trying to bring more businesses and more buildings that employ people in the region, this is going to be something that has to be able to accommodate that. And I think we're on the path.
We are. And I looked, just glanced at the thing. We need to change our logo. We got a new logo, folks, and it's we got the old logo up on the screens here.
It's retro.
Yeah, you're right. That's the retro stuff. But like I said, 219-595-0599. Dan is available. If he's not there, leave a message. He'll get back with you. And we're always accessible via the internet at the Little Cal River Basin. .org, and all the information, folks, from meeting minutes, meeting agendas, announcements,
cool pictures.
You
guys love pictures.
We appreciate
everything.
Picture says 1,000 words, and we we definitely appreciate the input, because if it wasn't for the individuals that work behind the scenes, I mean, it was all the individuals in the community that basically lit a fire under the legislature to get things changed in 2008 and 2009, and then beyond that to get certain projects wrapped up and finished. And it was very important.
Right, and we no longer want to wait for trauma to be able to get things done. All right, I mean, it's important to do some of the things that not everybody gets to see, because taking care of the infrastructure is not a very highly sought after photo op, right? But these are things to be able to do, because if you're going to dig up this much of it to repair it, why aren't you doing this? Do it in systems, because the dang thing is old. So each community has a lot of old infrastructure that needs to be addressed, and hopefully it's done in a manner that shows a little bit of region common sense and logic.
Is that an oxymoron? Common sense and logic in the region?
Let's try. I mean, that's all you could ask for. Because
Well, the nice thing about it is when you sit with the gentleman, Mr. Baker, myself, and the other commissioners, you know, the whole idea here is, one, best bang for the buck for the communities, and two, to make sure the 2008 flood never happens again or is mitigated to the damage that it did. And that's our marching orders on it every time we meet. So
Amen.
Rest assured, we're gonna spend your tax dollars wisely, folks. And the clock on the wall says we're.
Adriana, how are we doing this? So we
just
keep
about-
going, because you're not giving us any heads
We're
up
just
here.
about done. I see our CR, what do you call it's in the green room, waiting to step up to the plate, and we'll see you next month, folks. And
Everybody,
have a nice
happy
and
Thanksgiving.
safe, happy Thanksgiving.
You know, thank
Safe.
you very much. Hopefully we don't have to worry about the river.
Yes, mate. Yes, sir.
We'll worry about it.
Yeah. Go IU, right?